And now, I'd like to introduce our speaker. Rosemary Kay is from, she lives in Johnson City. She and her husband belong to the Holston Valley UUCH and have been members since they moved here in 2006. They have 3 cats, and when not being bossed by their furry overlords, they enjoy board games. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Rosemary, and she can begin her talk or lead us into the...
I can't remember a time in my life that I did not feel the weight of guilt. Guilt has been with me as a feeling and a topic of reflection for a long time. I recognize it as an effect of my upbringing, a very Catholic upbringing. I was raised Catholic, not only raised, but conceived Catholic. I was baptized into the Catholic faith shortly after birth. A year later, I was adopted into an amazing Irish-Italian Catholic family through Catholic Charities organization and baptized again, this time as Rosemary Kathleen. I went to St. Gabriel's Catholic grade school. I had my first Holy Communion in 3rd grade. I went to CYO summer camp, which stands for Catholic Youth Organization. I went to the Salesian Sisters Camp. That year, boy, I was a holy roller, man, I tell you. I took the sacrament of confirmation in 7th grade. I attended all-girls Mercy High School. My whole education up until the end of high school, I lived in the really hideously ugly blue and black and white plaid skirts and the little Peter Pan collars. Yes, I'm getting nods, yes. I prayed my rosary. I followed the rules of Lent. No meat on Fridays. You have to give something up. You try to find ways to give things up to atone. I went to confession regularly, reciting the words, "Father, forgive me, for I have sinned." I joined the high school PACE group. PACE stands for Promoting a Christian Environment. I had a goal for my future self. My goal was to adopt as many unwanted kids as I could. There was a family in California known as the DeBolt family, and I wanted to be like them. I fervently wanted to be a good person. I absorbed the messages. Do good works. Be good. But hey, sinner, you can never be good enough. Good enough is reserved for the saints and for the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. And of course, Mother Mary. She was really good. I was in my mid-teens. It was in my mid-teens that I started to question some of the doctrines and strict black and white of Catholicism, and how out of touch those absolutes seemed to me against the messy shades of gray of the real world. By 17, I was still in the PACE group, but by 17, I no longer believed in the religion of my birth. Basically, I gave up Catholicism for Lent. I walked away. But did I? Did I really? For so long, I have struggled with the feeling of guilt. I've always felt bad for so many decisions, little decisions, big decisions. I felt bad for hurtful things that other people did, taking on a feeling of blame. Even though I didn't do it, I wasn't involved, but I still feel bad. It was constant. I felt this under the current ripple of dread for so long. It was always there, even if I couldn't articulate it. Let me give you some examples. I feel guilty saying no to someone who needs help. I said yes a lot. I still do. I feel guilty all the time for the injustices to marginalized people. I feel guilty every time I don't help a charity that I believe in. There's just too many. When I was first on my own in my 20s, a coworker brought me food and medicine when I was sick. I really needed that. I had food poisoning. But I felt so guilty that she had to go out of her way to help me. In my 20s, I also felt bad for the way I dressed. I worked in Florida outdoors. I wore no makeup. I had my comfy Birkenstocks, short hair, practical clothes for outdoor work. I didn't fit the societal norm of femininity, and it made some people uncomfortable. I confused people. When I worked in Florida, I felt guilty applying for new jobs out of state because my parents were about to move from California to live near me. Just a few weeks ago, I felt incredibly guilty making that final decision to put down my sweet 14-year-old cat, who, despite being on a long downhill slide, he was still purring and eating and loving. Was I making this decision for my own needs or for his? When my husband Brian and I left Florida in 2006 to move to this region, I felt a huge weight of guilt moving away from my parents because I know it hurt them, but I just didn't want to be in Florida anymore. I felt terrible for how I mishandled my relationship with my mother-in-law. She came to live with us. I didn't have a lot of patience with her. She had mild dementia, and when she moved in with us, and then it progressed for the 5 years she was with us. And that was what prompted the move for her to come live with us. And I tried so hard to be the good person I was supposed to be. And it ate me up that I couldn't do it very well. I felt guilty that I never adopted those special needs kids. I never fostered. I never lived up to the image I had for a future me. I haven't helped a single child in need of a home. You can tell it still bothers me. But when I retire, I'm going to do it. And I rarely feel I do enough. If you're getting the sense that there is no limit to this list, you're right. There seems to be a term for this: Catholic guilt. It's real. It's a real phenomenon. It's not just a joke. In a nutshell, Catholic guilt is defined as the reported excess of guilt felt by Catholics and lapsed Catholics. Guilt is a byproduct of an informed conscience, but Catholic guilt borders on a near pathological anxiety about moral issues. It is personally distressing, dysfunctional, and often accompanied by impairment in social functioning. I know I'm not alone in this struggle. I've seen some of you nod. From talking with friends from Jewish, Methodist, Baptist, and other religious backgrounds, I know that while Catholics have done a really good job getting into people's heads, they certainly don't have a monopoly. As an adult and a non-Catholic, several friends called me out on this out-of-proportion sense of guilt. A good friend, Chris, also a former Catholic, berated me multiple times when I'd express how bad I felt about the new guilt of the day. That's what he called it. He'd verbally shake me and urge me, "Rosemary, let it go. Just let it go. Stop feeling guilty." I was screaming in my head, "How?" I was angry. He told me feeling guilty is a choice. I wanted to smack him. Why would I choose this? And by the way, I really love, there's a car outside that has a sticker on it, and it says, "Anger is a choice." I really like that. My friend Sandy often took me to task with the same refrain of, "Let it go." She told me several times that she thought the Catholic religion really messed me up. These friends, Chris and Sandy, got me thinking and recognizing the guilt of the day syndrome. I hadn't seen the pattern before as I was growing up in my adulthood. I never saw that I was doing this. I've been chewing on the concept of guilt ever since, and I've tried really hard to let it go, even though I don't quite know how to do that. I look at some of my examples that I gave you earlier, and I question if I really let it control me, like my friends were saying, that all of this controls you. Your guilt controls you. And in some cases, I think, yes, it has controlled me. When my parents were just moving to Florida to be near me, I ended up not taking a new job offer out of state. How awful would it be to up and leave when your family moves here, right? I needed to be the good daughter. I'm the good kid, so don't tell my brother that. I use Facebook less now because I just can't commit or handle seeing every birthday good cause request. I don't know if you've seen this on Facebook, that for a birthday, it's a great idea. I think it's really nice, but there's just too many. And if I give to one and I can't give to another and I'm not on top of it, it would bleed me dry. So I don't really go on Facebook much anymore. My sweet old cat Gandalf 3 weeks ago, having him put down, I had to seek permission from friends because I felt so guilty contemplating it. Waiting and seeking input didn't do that poor old cat any favors. I think I let him suffer longer than he needed to. And see, I still feel guilty even for that. If I delve into the memories of the years Brian's, my husband's elderly mother, lived with us, if I really, really stop and let myself go there, I feel a crushing sense of guilt. Sometimes it overwhelms me. Even now, it hurts. Aside from trying not to think about it, I don't know how to just let it go, how to just get over that. I did not make her final years pleasant. All I can do now is promise myself I'll put what I learned about best practices working with someone with dementia to good use in the future. In other words, I can't let it go. I can't change it, but I can vow to do better next time. For my mother, a friend, whenever it comes. But there are a lot more times I have felt guilty, but didn't let this feeling control me or change my actions. I didn't change how I dressed just to fit societal image of feminine. I stayed practical and comfortable and confusing. I don't care. Just because I feel bad I can't help everyone, no, I don't give to every worthy charity. I can feel bad about other people going out of their way to help me, but I've learned to accept gratefully the help from others. Despite feeling guilty moving away from my parents, who have more recently grown to need family help, I didn't stay in Florida. I am here. I love this life. I love this area, my community. I have no regrets. And just to give you an update on that situation, my parents live just a few miles from my home now in Johnson City. And they are struggling, but they now have family nearby, and it has been a blessing and an honor to be close. I always said, I'll do anything you need me to do, but I'm not moving back to Florida. Awareness started in the late 90s with those first conversations with Chris, my friend. I have thought a lot about this guilt thing over the years. I talked about this at my church, UUCH, a few years ago. I'm still working on it. This is my personal journey. Hey, maybe we can call this my guilt trip. Does awareness of this overinflated sense of guilt give me answers? No. Sorry. I just keep coming up with more questions. That's a very UU thing, isn't it? Just more questions. I don't know that I'll ever get past these automatic pangs of guilt that hit me. I know I have a choice intellectually, but the sense of guilt comes to me unasked for. I doubt I can shed this burden of Catholic guilt. After this long, I think it's just part of who I am. I think it's just built in. But I do think I'm better about trying to let things go, because I'm aware now that it's an option. This awareness also changed those pangs of guilt from gut punches to butterflies in my stomach. So I do think the awareness has been helpful. Remember how my friend Sandy said Catholicism messed me up? I thought a lot about that since then. And even though I'm not Catholic anymore, I was a little defensive about that comment. Does my overactive sense of guilt mean I'm messed up? I reject that. I look back on a happy childhood. Those years helped me develop a strong sense of right and wrong. That organized religion gave me a firm grounding. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that grounding. I think it has served me very well. I like who I have become. Finally, the culmination of all this awareness and thought and what motivated me to share this journey with you and my home church, I wonder if perhaps my own struggle with guilt can be flipped on its head. Instead of a negative, is there any way I can think about this positively? I think my awareness about it has been helpful in two ways. First, I won't always get it right, but I can learn and I can improve. Self-improvement sure beats being paralyzed into doing nothing. Second, I recognize in myself a strong sense of empathy, especially towards people who are hurting. It helps me connect with others and want the best for others. I want people to succeed. I want you to be happy. I may not always be able to act on it or to help everyone who needs it. But if it comes down to it, I choose living with this guilt if it means I can empathize with others. Because I've met so many people who have no empathy, and it's scary. So thank you for choosing to share this time with me. I think if we had just Bill come up and give his quote, this problem would have all been solved for everybody. That was great. You know, you can't solve the past from guilt, and you can't, I don't remember the exact quote, but it's useless. Guilt is kind of useless in some ways. So if you carry the burden of guilt, you are allowed to let it go, if you can. But if you are like me and struggle with that whole letting it go part, I lift you up in your own journey of awareness. Thank you. Bill,